This video is going to be over scope, and this is going to be a short video because it's a pretty simple concept. Basically, when you think of scope, you got to think of like thinking of it like where a variable is created and where it can be accessed at. So we're going to say we're going to have a variable a equals 5. All right, simple enough. And since right now we are in what's called the main scope, which is we're not in a loop, we're not in a function, we're not in an if block or anything. We're just in our main scope of our program. So if we print a, compile that, and we get 5. So simple enough. And in a for loop, let's say we did for I equals 1, 2, 3, and we will print a. And this will output 3. This will output a 3 times. So a is 5. It'll print 5 3 times, and we get 5 3 times. Something I did go over in briefly in the last video is like this I right here, this variable that's created for the for loop. Its scope is only within the for loop. So let's say we try to print I here. This won't compile because I is created inside of this for loop, and it only exists within this for loop. Its scope doesn't exist outside the for loop. But if we did create a variable up here called I, and we set it equal to 0, then this variable right here, instead of creating a new variable within this scope, it's going to use this variable that's already created called I. So we're setting this variable equal to 1 to 3. So if we try to print I here now, I is going to be 3. And we get 3 after we print the 5 3 times. So but let's say like we create like since we're inside of a for loop, you can actually put loops within loops and if blocks within loops, and like you can basically stack each of them within each other as many times as you want. So we're gonna get rid of that, and we're gonna have another loop for I'll say j equals 1 2 3, and we will just print hello. Well, actually, I'm gonna just continue printing the variable. I'm gonna make a string though called hello, and we will print a. Now, since a is in the main scope, a is accessible within every scope that is created from the main scope, which is this for. And since this for is created within this for, which is created within the main scope, it can access a as well. So, like, no matter how far down you go, you'll be able to access every variable created in like the parent scope and that parent's parent scope and the parent's parent's parent scope and so on and so forth. So since a is at the top scope, it'll be accessible within this for loop, and this will loop through this for loop with I will loop through 3 times, and then for each time this I loop the loops, it'll loop through this loop 3 times. So this will print a 9 times, and we'll get rid of this for now. Compile and run, and we get hello printed 9 times. But since j is created for this for loop, or actually we'll create another variable inside this for loop. So we'll say dim x, and set x equal to 3. We'll say the number we haven't used yet, 17 or something. So we can print x inside of this for loop because x is created inside this for loop. It's accessible inside this for loop. And we'll compile that, and it would print 17 9 times. But since x was created inside of this for loop, it's only accessible inside of this for loop, or any if block or for loop or while loop or anything created inside of that for loop. So if we tried to print x here, it would fail. Won't compile. But if we created x in this loop, so we're creating x in its parent loop, now we can access x here and here, and compile that. And I'm not going to run it, it's just going to print 17 a whole lot. But that's basically the concept of loops. A concept of scopes. And it applies to functions too. So anything created within a function, say dim a, dim b, a equals 5, b equals 6, and then function. These variables are created within this function, so they can only be accessed within the function. So we'll say print a, and it won't compile. So that's something to pay attention to, is where your variables are created and where you're using them at. Because if your variable is created in a scope that it can't be used in, then you're not going to have access to that variable. And that's pretty much it for scopes. I'm going to end that here, and I will see you in the next video.